Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about progressive web apps, how to convert your normal React application into progressive web app, and how to do the customizations for that. Plus we'll also get to know that how we will handle the offline and online states in our app, and we'll also talk about the most important, how to convert your web app into desktop application. So currently here I've created this very basic React app which has this landing page which doesn't do anything, but let me walk you guys through the normal code that I've just added. So basically here I have this app file which is doing nothing but calling this landing page component, and this landing page component has some static UI that is currently visible on screen. Alright, so basically now the first thing that we need to do in order to convert a normal web application into a progressive web application is to setting up some service workers. So that I'm going to start now. So basically in the public folder, inside the public folder, here we can create a file, service worker.js. So here inside this file basically we'll do some initial setup for the progressive web app. Now I'm going to paste some boilerplate code here which you do not need to worry about, but basically at the top we are importing the scripts. So either we can actually install the workbox dependencies one by one in the package.json, or we can just use the import scripts to import the package like this, and then we are basically doing few configurations. The first thing is that when the workbox variable is available, we are going to log out, we are going to console log that the workbox is loaded successfully. The other thing we are doing here is basically saying that we do not want to debug, so it won't console every single thing in the browser's console, so that. And here basically we are just setting some expiration timeline for the workbox, then we are trying to set some fonts and some customizations for offline size. So basically all of this you do not need to worry about, because this is like the advanced level. If you want to customize fonts, do the caching for certain routes, so all of that, so we do not need to do that. Either we can remove this code and keep it as it is, it really doesn't matter. But what does matter is that we have initialized the workbox, and now we can do the exact things that we want to do with it. So I'm just basically going to save that, and now since I've created this service file, we need to call it somewhere in the app so this code runs, right? So I'm going to do that now. What I'm basically going to do is I am going to create a JS config file at the root level of the project. So let me create a file, jsconfig.json file. Okay, and I'm going to paste some code here. So now normally we do not require to create this JSON config file, but here since we have the service worker inside the public folder, so we need to tell the compiler that we need to include that file at the runtime as well. So basically the code inside the service worker should run. Now since we have completely set up the service worker, the next thing that we need to do is do the registration of service worker. So this was the setup. Now we'll actually register this service worker. So for that what we can do is inside the source we can create a register file, register.js. Alright, and I'm just going to again paste some code. So see, the name of the function is service worker registration, and if it finds service worker in the navigator, then I'm going to add it into the window event listener, on load, and we are going to fetch the service worker file from /service worker. And now why have I have added /service worker here? Because we can access the files inside a public directory like that. Now when the service worker is completely registered, we are going to console log that out, that service worker has registered. And or if we face any issues in the registrations, then we basically going to get this error saying service worker registration failed. So this is the very basic function. I'm going to save it. I've added inside the source directory. Now I'm going to go to index.js file, and here at the bottom I'm just going to call that function, which was service worker registration, like this. Alright, so I think that is done. Now we are completely done with setup and the registration of service worker. Now what we need to do next is basically go to our browser and see if we are getting anything in the console log. And see, the first thing is basically workbox is loaded in the navigator that we have consoled from the service worker, and the next thing that is consoled is the registration. So registration for service worker is also completed. So both of these things are done now, and we can move ahead with whatever features that we want to implement in order to implement the progressive web app. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is implement an online and offline state. So a lot of apps has this requirement that we want to show a different kind of UI when the app is offline. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my app file, and I'm going to create a state here saying offline, set offline. So this state will tell me whether my app is in offline state or not, and initially I'm going to set it as false. Now whenever this state is basically true, I'm going to show something else like an offline page. So that offline page I've already created here. So this is very basic offline page that I'm showing. So what I'm going to do here is, if offline is true, then I want to show, instead of landing page, then I want to show offline page like this. Otherwise I want to show the landing page only. Alright, so this is very basic setup, and I'm going to save it. So just for testing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it as true, which means our offline state is going to be true. Let me import use state, otherwise it will break the code. Okay, so our offline state is true. Now should be seeing the offline page, and see, it shows that you're offline. Okay, now I'm actually going to implement the functionality which will tell me that our app is actually in offline state. So what I'm basically going to do is, firstly I'm going to create a use effect which should only run for the first time the app loads, and then I'm going to set up some event listeners. So here I've set up two event listeners. The first is online and the second one is offline. Here I have two functions, handle online and handle offline. So I need to create those functions. Handle online. What should handle online do? Basically this is the function which gets called when our app gets into online state. So I need to set my offline state to false, and what handle offline should do is basically set offline state to true. So these are the two functions. Now we have set up the event listener, so we also have to make sure that when the app unmounts, we have to remove these event listeners. So this is kind of cleanup that I'm doing here. Okay, so what I'll do is window dot remove event listener online and handle online, and the second is going to be window dot remove event listener offline handle offline. Alright, so that, I think that was pretty much it. This is the only logic that we need to add in order to know whether our app is in offline state or online state. I'm going to go back to my app, make a refresh once. Alright, now what I'm going to do is actually turn off my Wi-Fi to see if this changes. So I'm going to turn it off, and you can see as soon as I turned my Wi-Fi off, I am seeing the offline state, and now I'm going to set it back on. Okay, now it's connected. Okay, I didn't even had to retry because I've added the event listener. It's gonna change the UI back to the default UI, so I think that this works as expected and it looks good. The next thing that I'm gonna do is basically add the ability in my app to convert my web app into a desktop app, and for that I'm gonna go to the code. Now what I'm gonna do here is basically set up another event listener that is going to be listening for the event for exactly installing the app. So that event listener is basically this one. So the name of the event is basically before install prompt, and this is going to be calling a function named show prompt, which I'll just write. But before doing that, I'm just quickly going to also remove the event listener when the app unloads. Remove event listener. I'm going to format that, and here I'm going to create a function named show prompt. Now what we need to do is basically create a variable named prompt and set prompt. So what we basically need to do here is basically set that prompt event in this state. So what basically happens is when the app loads, we cannot install the app then and there, so that is not possible. So user has to do like some few seconds of activity, scroll through the app or do some kind of interaction with the app, and then only we get this event. Only after that we get this event, and then whatever the event that we will receive, we are going to store it in this state, which is the prompt state, and then we'll use this state whenever user clicks on the install button. Okay, so the code that we need to write inside show prompt is basically we are going to get an event. That event we need to store in this state. Here I'm going to paste some code. So see, the first thing I want to know is basically this event has been called, because as I said that this takes some time, right? Few seconds. It just doesn't get called right when the app loads, so it takes a few seconds, and when this event is gonna get called, then I'm going to check whether we already have a prompt available. So if we have a prompt, then basically we do not need to do anything, and then we can just return. But if we do not have a prompt and prompt is null, then firstly we can do is prevent the default. What this basically going to do is, if we do not prevent the default, then it's going to show the install app prompt then and there. So we do not want that. We only want to show install app prompt when user clicks on some button, right? So that I'm going to run the prevent default, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to be setting the prompt with whatever the event that we have received here. So this I'm quickly going to be saving. Okay, so this is done. Now the next thing is I'm going to be creating a button which will say download app or install app. Okay, so that I'm going to be creating inside landing page. So inside landing page, I'm just quickly going to grab a button which looks like a button, and here I'm going to paste it here. So firstly, it doesn't need to be an anchor tag, it needs to be a button, and I'll change quickly a few styles here. It doesn't need that much of spacing, and the title of the button needs to be install app. Okay, so yeah, I think that is done now. I think I must have gotten some basic looking install button here, and I'll just quickly make it to 3, but it like looks way too much to me. Yeah, now it's fine. Now what basically I'm gonna do is I'm going to have 2 props from here. The first one is going to be disable install, that is going to be the first one, and the second one is going to be handle install. 2 things. So only when I have this as false, then I want to show this button, because I don't want to show this button when we don't even have that prompt event to begin with. And then I'm just going to call the onClick function as handle install. Alright, so I think everything in this file is done. Now I'm going to move back to app file, and everything is going to be dealt with here. The first thing, when I don't want to show the when I don't want to show the button is when we don't have any prompt set. So that is the first condition. So I want to disable install when we don't have a prompt. The second thing is that I need to create a function, let's say handle install, and here I'll write some logic, but here I'll have to, no sorry, not onClick, I'll have to pass the handle install as handle install. Okay, so I think both of these things are now done. Now I just have to write the logic to handle install. And here inside, what I need to do is basically, in the prompt variable that I've stored, it has another prompt variable inside it, which is not basically a variable but a function. So what I need to do is basically prompt. So just for security, if we don't have any prompt variable available, then I'm just going to return, but otherwise I'm just going to show that prompt. I think everything related to the setup is now done, and what I'm going to do is make a refresh, and let's wait for the install event to log, because I've already set it up in the event list now. So I think it should call the show prompt, which should console this event here. Now as you guys can see that this has consoled. So this is basically the event has received, and this is the event basically, which doesn't matter. But one thing to remember is that sometimes it doesn't come really quickly. For me it came after 2 minutes, but if it doesn't come, then what you need to do is rerun the app, because of the fact that we have initialized a service worker and made this application progressive web app, so it could have the caching. So because of that, so this won't be loading, so you just need to rerun the app and see if this you receive this prompt. So now basically, as we have received this prompt, and now we have the value stored inside the variable prompt, and we can try to click on it and see what happens. So I've clicked on it, and you can see that I have got this prompt saying that install the app and create React app. So now this configuration here, the content here is basically has taken from the SEO customization. So what we need to do here, we can just go to the public the index.html file inside public folder, and we can make few changes, like we can change the title, we can change the icon if we want, we can add description, the description will show here, and then we can also add some screenshots. If we add screenshots, then the screenshots will also come here. So this will get a really big prompt. We can customize it however we want, depending upon our search engine optimization customization. So since this is an initial app, I just created it, so it'll have the basic information about the app. So now here I can either cancel or install. So this will basically actually install the app for me on my desktop. So I'm going to click on install, and as you can see now here it is coming in the app. Now here you can see that on the desktop I am getting this icon. So this is basic React icon. This definitely you can change. Here the create React app, this configuration definitely you can change. You can have it whatever you want, and then whenever I'll click on it, this is actually going to open a desktop app for my application. So this is not going to be a web application anymore. Now this is basically a desktop app. So I think this is how we will convert our React web application into desktop app. So what I did basically is I went inside index.html inside public folder, and I changed the title to roses or whatever, and here is where I've changed the favicon icon to logo.jpg. So this is a file that I just added some flower icon, and then I went inside manifest, and inside manifest I changed the short name to from create React app to roses, and the name here as well. And inside all the image sources I've added the same logo image, that flower image. So after I updated the manifest and the index.html file, now I can see at the top I'm seeing that name only and that icon only. Now basically if I click on installing the app, I'm going to get that name and that icon. So that is not going to be the default React icon anymore, and I'm going to click on install, and let me close this. And as you guys can see that the same icon that I'd added in the manifest plus the name that I'd added, it's exactly visible here. Now I can click on it whenever to open it. So this will open my exact web application. So that was pretty much it about converting your web application into a progressive web app and adding all the extraordinary feature that we can add into the application. So please do not forget to like, share and subscribe. Thank you so much.